Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Velo podcast. Now, I think this one is going to be a pretty damn good episode because rather than being separated by, 1,000 kilometers and a border in my case, we are all in the same place with donuts. Alvin, Josh, and I, and Will, we're all down in Marin County, just outside of San Francisco for Velo's all-road field test. Now, these guys have been testing bikes, filming reviews for the last few weeks. Well, I've basically been trying to hang on to their wheels the entire time, and it's been mostly fun, except for the time that I ran into the back of a car and took poor Will down with me, who now is very injured. But we're going to do a crash debrief later on in the show. For now, we got a lot of tech to get into because there are two new and very interesting bikes that we want to talk about, and they're both kind of strange. Now, the first one, Josh, Litespeed. First, can you pronounce the name of this? The lightest titanium frame in the world. Can you pronounce the name?
You know what, I can't, and the reason for that is because Alvin's going to tell you about this one. He's the one that knows a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Can you do it?
I looked it up. Someone's gonna be in the comments telling me that I can't roll my R's, which is true. But Col del Rey,
Col del Reis.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic.
Reis. I can't roll my R's. I speak Italian. I can't roll my R's.
It sounds...
Thank you. Can you say it?
Reis.
Bingo.
There we go.
No, that's good.
Let's keep it going.
It sounds very classy, but I think
Yeah.
the main talking point with this bike, it is a titanium frame that is sub 1,000 grams that Litespeed is making a pretty big deal about. And that number, I mean, that's a big number now, but Alvin, tell us the whole story here.
Okay, so Litespeed tells me that there are two versions of this frame, at least in emails they're telling me. So there's one that's just over 1,000 grams, and then there's this headlining one that they're saying in like a 54 centimeter frame or something like that is 948 grams, which makes it the lightest titanium road bike that you can get, kind of just ever. Mm-hmm. There's a weight limit, it's 187 pounds.
That seems low.
It is low.
I did a Google. The average American male weighs 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Is anyone here at this table going to have a problem with 187 pounds?
No, but we are also far from the average American.
That is true.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
what about the average American that's buying a 1,000-gram titanium road bike?
Guys, what about the average
American?
dentist?
You're right. The average dentist probably isn't buying a $6,500 Litespeed either. Other thing.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
they're
lightest
buying.
high bike, brother.
You're right, but they're probably buying a Moots at that point. If you're spending that much money, or maybe a Mosaic if you live out here in Marin. Like you're probably buying something like that.
Fair enough.
But you get a threaded bottom bracket, super low weight, road bike geometry. They're saying it's based off of the Spezia road bike, which is Italian. I don't think it is. Just looking at the geometry chart, it is a little bit different. But 35 mil tire clearance, 6 sizes, and it's backed with the same lifetime warranty that everything else Litespeed has.
The frame is 200 grams or 197 grams lighter than the Spezia, which
Yeah.
is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
I like this, but the analytical part of me looks at it and says, why? When I can get, a 700 gram frame, we have an Athos in there. An Athos frame weighs what? Like it starts with a 5.
Yeah, it's 585 is the claimed weight for, I
Yeah.
believe, a 54.
So who is this thing for? What does it accomplish?
I think if anything, it's for Litespeed and their parent company to give themselves a pat on the back to say, hey, we're doing cool stuff, which in this era right now in the bike industry where it's just kind of like people are teetering a little bit,
Yep.
I think it's cool that they're pushing out something cool like this. Litespeed also hasn't had like a calling card like this in quite some time, I would say.
Yeah.
And so I think more so than for an individual consumer, this is for Litespeed to say, hey, look at this cool stuff that we've done.
I don't think that's totally fair. It is entirely true that it's going to draw attention because it's headline, it's super light. It's so light, in fact, that they tell you the weight of the head badge and it will push it over. But regardless, I think people are into it. Like, I think people will be into it.
Yeah, I do
because
too.
It's just different. It's just interesting. I think it's more than just a calling card for them. It is also a calling card for them.
Yeah, I think that helps. It's kind of like every high-end sports car company has some sort of like halo car.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think
that's
Litespeed has needed something like that for a little bit. So.
There's definitely a group of people that don't care that this thing weighs 1,000 grams for the frame too. Like in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of weight, even if it is a pound heavier than some crazy light stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
Also, we should be clear that while the Athos happens to be ridiculously light, a lot of carbon frames are like in the 800 gram. Like pretty
More.
normal.
Yeah.
800,
I'd say it's not
850?
even really rare to be 700 gram range.
You think? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. It's cool to see this. You're going to get one in, right?
I am going to get one in for review.
Yeah.
I have been kind of poring over the, there's not very many color options, I will say.
Okay.
Although I'm having a
Because they
hard
add weight, right?
Well, yeah, probably. And I'm just
Anodization adds weight.
I'm super like the first thing that I came up against was so they offer the zip wheels or they offer NV wheels. So the zip with the wavy ones, which are an amazing set of wheels, but they might be a little too modern for that frame. And then
You got to go low profile with
Right,
something
well,
like this.
That's
Josh,
the other. Well,
come
so
on.
these are the low profile. These are the climber zips, but they're the wavy thing. And then it's the 353. And then there's the Envy. You could go the 2.3, which is the low profile. Very classic looking wheel, even though it's carbon and modern. I feel like that's the move, even though I don't really ride those kind of wheels.
You should hold out for those 303s with a built-in tire whiz that we keep seeing at,
Yes,
at Strade
those
Bianche.
have to be. Those have to come. But there's no way that's going to be uber light.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Either the frame's
Doesn't
light
matter
enough.
with this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just throw it all at it.
Guys, we see a lot of cool stuff. Does titanium, like personally, I'm asking you personally, Will, does titanium have that cachet for you? Is it like, oh, that is interesting?
I feel like the older you get, the more the cachet unveils itself
The
to
slower you get, the more the cachet matters,
No,
everybody.
it's the older. It's the older. Yeah.
But I guess speaking as maybe the only person here who owns a titanium bike,
Oh, you own a
I
bike?
actually own a gravel Litespeed,
shit.
which I enjoy quite a bit.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't know, I like it a lot.
What do you like about the titanium before we move on?
I don't even know if it's really the titanium itself, although the bike ride's great. I'm sure it's mostly comes down to the geometry and the fact that it is just it's a well-built frame by Litespeed. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Josh, you're excited for that bike. I'm looking
I am.
forward to hearing what you think of it. Have you ridden titanium bikes before?
I have not. I have
Really?
ridden. Don't tell anybody because they won't take me seriously.
Yeah.
But I have not ridden titanium bikes. I have ridden steel, quite a few steel bikes. My experience moving from carbon to metal is that it really doesn't matter that much. It kind of depends on the bike. Like, it's not magic. It's a material that people can do things with.
Don't ruin it.
Yeah.
Don't ruin it.
There are a lot of different tube sets and a lot of different ways to manipulate
Yeah,
it.
it's just like carbon. It's just the quality of the material matters. And the
Yeah,
level of the material
absolutely.
Yeah. I will say, just to wrap this up, this is definitely a heart bike over a brain bike.
Yeah.
This is not a bike that you look at the bullet points and go, check, check, check. This is a bike that you look at and go, I want that. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
Let's keep moving.
Let's change directions here. There's another new bike, and it could not be more different. It is the Cannondale Topstone. Josh wrote a piece, a first look on it, on the Velo homepage. The title is Everything is Less Weird. Josh, I still see a lefty on the front of that thing, so it's still kind of weird.
It's still kind of weird.
Give us the breakdown.
Cannondale wouldn't be Cannondale if there wasn't at least some weird. in
Never
there.
change, Cannondale.
Yeah, never change. We love it. But here's the thing. I have such a connection to the Topstone because I rode the Slate, which was the precursor to the Topstone, and it was such an amazing bike for its time. And then the Topstone came out, and it just kept that rolling. And this new one, like the big thing is there's no AI on it. That's when I talk about like
What is
weird.
that AI?
Yeah, what is
so
AI?
AI.
It's not the AI you're thinking.
Yeah.
It's worse. It's worse.
It's somehow worse.
So the thing about this,
Yeah.
the reason I mentioned the Slate and then how it like went into the Topstone is Cannondale did this stuff when nobody was really doing it. There wasn't really gravel bikes then, and so Cannondale was like, we built this gravel bike, and it has road gearing on it and a road group set, and how do you make all that work with a short chainstay? And you know, so what they did was they redished the rear wheel, and you would never think about it. You would never, like, it just was invisible
Until
exactly, until you're like, oh, I'm gonna like just swap wheels, and then you're like, oh, right.
Josh,
I can't do that.
I had an entire video shoot ruined once because we were using a Topstone and we were checking out different wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
exactly the kind of thing. You just never even think about
Didn't
it.
think about it.
I had a sale once in a bike shop where I was like selling someone a super light Super X.
yeah.
And then they were like, we had these like on clearance wheels that were super light and awesome. And they're like, yeah, we're going to sell you on this. And then the deal fell apart. And then we were stuck with that Super X for like another year.
Yeah.
It
So
was ridiculous.
to be fair, like the AI thing is weird, and it's not required. People are doing shorter rear ends without weird dishing. But I do want to say that there's no proprietary parts involved with the AI wheel dishing. It's just standard hub, standard rim. It's just
And you can
dished over funny.
Right, you could redish. You could always redish wheels, and it was fine.
But it's weird. Anyways,
And
that's
it was
gone.
weird. And the same thing with, this is another thing that nobody ever thought about, which is if you bought the lefty Topstone, it actually had different geometry than the non-lefty Topstone, like in the previous generation. And you would never think about it. And they didn't make it obvious in any of the marketing materials. It was like you had to dig. I used to have to ask people at Cannondale, and they didn't even know.
Was it one frame not corrected?
Yeah, it was basically like, okay, so the new frame, this is the less weird. It's essentially a suspension corrected frame. And then you can have it with suspension or not. You can choose the lefty. And the lefty's not even the top model anymore, which is, I think is maybe a little weird, but
Kudos to Cannondale for keeping it, but also realizing that a lot of people don't want that. I
Yeah.
like lefties personally.
I think lefties are great, and I think suspension in general
There's
is
some
fantastic.
asterisks there, but
Yeah, they can be a little hard to own.
They are hard to own. There's no way around it. They are hard to own.
what's more
It can
annoying?
be, and they are.
putting it in a bike rack or answering nonstop questions at the trailhead. Hey, dude, you forgot half your fork.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
do you lean to one side?
Yeah, I love those questions.
Does it turn?
Yeah.
I've seen so many people just like with those like the lefty dampers needing to get serviced, and then they could only go to Cannondale basically to maintain warranties.
There's a
That type of
price for the uniqueness, the differentness of the bike. I think in the same way we just talked about that titanium bike, it's a very different thing because I think there's like some more technology and stuff going on here. But in the same way, it's kind of a heart bike because like somebody who gets a Topstone with a lefty, they're kind of weird in an awesome way, and they like weird, interesting things, which is good.
I mean, that's what it, especially back when it was the Slate. When like, if you read the reviews from back then, people didn't know what it was or what
I
to
loved
do
that
with
bike.
it.
Yeah.
That bike is so good. But so now I didn't actually put this in the article because there just wasn't a good way to put it in there. But I'm going to take the time right now to say that in a way, I sort of mourn the Topstone, and the more new models come out, I go, God, because the Topstone didn't really change. It only got better. It has gotten better and better over the years, and this new one is the best yet. And yet,
Don't say that. You haven't ridden the new one
On
yet.
paper.
Yeah, it's the best yet on paper.
Potentially the best.
Unless it does something really weird, it's going to be the best of the Topstones.
Josh, it could do something weird.
You never know. I'm gonna find out. There's some weird geometry thing. But here's the thing I'm trying to say. The Topstone didn't. It got better, but it didn't inherently change the bike it was. And then somehow it was once the race bike that Ted King won, I think, Unbound on. And then now there's a different bike that's the race bike, and the Topstone is, to me, feels like it's playing second fiddle. When I sort of mourn that it, like, what happened?
Don't disgrace the Super X. Ted King, I don't know if he's won on it, but he's definitely raced on it.
Well, but
Super X is a hell of a gravel bike too.
the Super X is a hell of a gravel bike, but
It
that
was,
used to be a CX bike, yes?
Yeah, and the geometry hasn't changed. We've talked about this. Geometry hasn't changed since like 2017. But,
Right. So
yeah.
like, I don't know why the Topstone can't be the gravel race bike, but I guess it doesn't really matter. That's why it's not in the article, because it's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. But there's a part of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. A couple other things about this bike before we move on. Down tube storage,
Yeah.
like all good gravel
Yeah.
bikes should have. More tire clearance, 52 in the back, 47 up front.
So we should look at that.
I did.
Okay. So, but that's with the lefty, right? You
Yes.
can get bigger without the lefty.
It's a tire height issue
Yeah.
with the lefty. It'll bump up against the bottom of the crown, which you most definitely want to avoid.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
And it still uses the same rear end, which it has a pivot, it has flex stays, but it has no bumpers or shock.
Kingpin.
That's
You've
right.
ridden the bike.
So yes, I
How
have
effective?
ridden the Kingpin quite a bit. It's crazy because they say it moves a lot, but I guess it's more like more like the seat post on that Specialized. Really, it moves quite a bit, but you kind of don't feel it. Like it's almost seamless. I actually think that Kingpin thing is a pretty cool idea because it works in a way that, like, it's just a smart engineering thing, which Cannondale is known for, except it doesn't punish you for by being willing to take on that smart engineering thing.
Yeah, they're definitely getting more movement than if it was just carbon flex at the chain stays where it is and at the seat stays.
Yeah.
But it is weird to see a pivot, but no shock and no bumper.
I mean, I've had conversations with I have a riding friend that is like, no, it's a triangle, it can't move, but it moves. I mean, it does. There's a pivot there. It moves.
Yeah.
Carbon flexes. It allows it to move. I mean, it's just, it's a smart design.
Okay, so before we move on, guys, I'm gonna start down at Will. Do you embrace Cannondale's weirdness, or would you lean towards, personally, more of a traditional-ish bike of some sort?
I mean, I'm all for Cannondale. Just when they dish their wheels like everyone else.
Yes.
That's the only one that gets me. They can do everything else different.
Okay. Alvin?
I think some people might accuse us of West Coast bias for probably hating on Cannondale more than an East Coaster would. I really like their stuff. I mean, I generally embrace it. I do think that these iterations of the new Cannondales are their best yet, where they still have kind of some of the weird stuff going on, stuff that differentiates it, but it doesn't have the quality of life things that make it harder to live with.
If I confused anyone and made it sound like I was not pro Cannondale, let me apologize. I love Cannondale.
Yeah.
I have a CAD 9 that is running campy, and
You
it's
and I
all
are of
custom.
the age of
I
Cannondale when
love
Cannondale was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
those bikes are fantastic.
yeah. I will say, in a time when a lot of frames, I know there's different features and all this stuff, but at a time when a lot of frames, like, they're all light, none of them are that shitty, like, they all handle good, they're all like proper bikes that aren't really holding anything back. I'd like to see something different. And Cannondale's doing that. And I mean, I've owned many Cannondales, I've owned many lefties, and they've had their own unique challenges, of course, but I think it's good to see something completely different out there.
Yeah, I love it. I love Cannondales. And a little shout out to the Super 6 that has a seat tube that's so narrow you can't put the Di2 battery in there.
What?
Keeping it real.
Arrow.
Yes.
Okay, that's all for tech. 2 new bikes, that is it. But Will and I have a more serious topic to get to. Will and I had never ridden together. I think it was our first bike ride together. And
It was.
we were out leaving Mill Valley here where we're staying for the field test. We were on test bikes. We were rolling through town somewhere over there, and we were, I don't know, was it 12 miles into our 100?
We went 12 miles out of 100.
12 miles out of 100. We made it 12%. Doesn't seem that good.
The nice way of saying it. That's a great way of doing it.
I like that.
That's a fail. And we were coming through an intersection, and we had a major moment. I hit the back of a car. I flipped over. Will, I don't even know. Will, can you describe, maybe just because you were behind me, describe what you saw?
I mean, I feel like we had time to get around this car, but
Yes.
But I don't know. I saw you, like Josh, Alvin, you made it around. You were going around. This car was turning into a strip mall after turning right on red in front of us, so they shouldn't have done that. But Levy, I think you thought they were going to turn into the strip mall faster.
No.
No?
I thought they were going straight.
Yeah, they were going straight. Okay.
So I didn't see, I'll describe what happened. We came through an intersection at, I don't know, 40 kilometers an hour, something like that.
Maybe a little less.
Maybe a little less.
We
something like that.
weren't actually. It
100
felt fast to the mountain biker. We weren't actually going that fast.
I hit the back of a car. It felt pretty fast.
Yeah.
So we were coming straight through an intersection, green light, and a car pulled out in front of us, made a right, which they're obviously allowed to do. It was like a little tight. It was a little sketch.
No.
What?
It was sketch.
Just
It
let
was
him,
very- it
Josh,
was
just
very
let him
sketch.
cook. Josh.
It felt a little sketch. It felt a little tight to me. And then the road kind of flattened, and it looked like it kind of went up maybe a little bit. And I am out of my element here. I'm just a poor ass mountain biker trying to keep up with these fast roadies, to be honest with you. So this car pulled out in front of us, and I thought they were going to accelerate and keep going, and I was in the draft, which is what you want, you know, and I was going to pass these losers here. I wasn't going to see them for the rest of another 90 miles. It was going to be great. Instead, she basically stopped on the road before she turned right into a strip mall. I didn't know there was even an entrance to the strip mall there. I didn't even have time to pull my brake levers. I did a quick swerve, but I didn't even get close. This is what I remember happening.
Yeah.
And I hit the back left-hand corner pretty hard with this shoulder here and went up over. And I think, Will, can you describe what happened to you?
Yeah, I mean, I had nowhere to go, basically. All of a sudden, you are flying up sideways in front of me.
Oh, my
and,
God.
I, too, have no time to hit the brake or anything, so I'm just going over you. And then
Did you hit my bike or me?
I don't remember. You're in front of me. It's you or the bike.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I've unclipped. I'm upside down, basically. I land basically on my shoulder. Hit my head, too, a little bit. Luckily, not so bad.
Your helmet's trashed.
My helmet is totally trashed, but your helmet is trashed regardless of any crash, so kids.
Yeah, for
Yeah, your helmet might be
kids
trashed too,
out
brother.
there,
Yeah,
even
mine's
if you
trashed.
drop it,
And
if
by
it's a
kids,
hard
we
drop,
mean adults.
You should replace
Yes,
it.
the person in the ER was like really making sure, no, you got to throw away your helmet, because apparently a lot of cyclists are like, no, it's okay. But no, it's not
we
okay.
know.
Throw away your helmet. But yeah, helmet was trashed. Basically, shoulder took the brunt of it, and by shoulder I mean collarbone. And I had a fun collarbone break, not just a simple break that will heal on its own. I got right at the end, and we're gonna need to go in and have some surgery and pull the bones together with some hardware in there.
Oh my God.
That's what I found out today. I just got back from the orthopedic surgeon. So
Field testing, everybody. This is not all fun and games, especially when I'm around. You know, honestly, coming here, like let's just be honest, since that's what we're doing anyway. Coming here, my main goal, I had two goals as a mountain biker / gravel guy. They were, don't be the slow guy, like don't hold you guys up, you know, I want to be strong, and don't take anybody down with you. You crash on your own, that's fine. Just don't take anybody down with you. First ride with Will, I hit a fucking car and take him down, and now he has to have surgery on his collarbone.
For what it's worth, you're not slow. You're very strong.
Yeah, but for what it's worth, I would rather be slower and that not to have happened. And to be honest with you, like, I think really what this comes down to is my head wasn't on the swivel that it needs to be on when you're in traffic. I ride traffic fairly often. I go to Vancouver, the city, and ride around. But it's a whole different ballgame when you're riding with other people, and you have to take other things into mind, and you have to be way more aware of your surroundings. And I had been doing good.
Yeah.
You know, straight lines, not doing anything crazy, not being a mountain biker.
No.
But literally all it takes is a split second. I was like so excited and not paying attention. And the next thing you know, Will and I are on the ground. My arm is upside down. This poor woman that is driving whatever vehicle we hit is having a heart attack.
metaphorically.
Metaphorically, not literally.
It's important to know.
Just note that. At the end of the day, Will's going to recover. You know, it's all going to be good. But yeah, I mean, that was some crazy shit.
Yeah. You want to know a funny thing?
No. Is anything funny about this?
We chose the worst possible week for this to happen because it's like the National Orthopedic Surgeon Conference this week.
Oh my goodness.
So I'd probably be having surgery this week, any other week.
That is crazy.
So now I have to wait a week to get back from, I don't know, Hawaii or something.
Basically, I've just been apologizing to Will for 4 days. It's never boring. It's never boring when I'm around, for better or for worse. Good Lord.
It's really good. I'm a real cyclist now. That was my first collarbone. So
Yeah.
I'm inducted into the club.
So if you've been listening to the Velo podcast recently, it might have been 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, we were talking about broken bones. And Will says, I've never broken a bone, ever, on my bike. Or maybe ever in your life.
Ever in my life.
And I thought to myself, you just wait.
Hold on. He didn't mean that he was
I'll
going to
take care
cause
of that.
that.
No, I did. Obviously, I didn't think that. But anyways, I'm glad that you're going to recover. Everything is going to be fine at the end of the day. And years from now, this is going to be a story that we look back at. They're going to maybe laugh at it. I'm going to look back at it with slightly less shame than I'm feeling right now, but definitely still some, and some lessons learned. So yeah.
Field test, baby.
Hashtag field test, everybody.
Field
Jeez. Okay, guys, we've got that out of the way. I mentioned at the start of the podcast that we're all together because it is the field test. We're here to ride these all road bikes, which is what we've been trying to do anyway for the last few weeks. And some of these bikes are very different than other bikes, and it's, including how they handle, to how they mute rough roads, how they feel in the wild crosswinds. They all have very distinct personalities and strengths and weaknesses. And that got me thinking, if I was going to buy one of these bikes for myself, would I want to buy one that suits my strengths, that accentuates those strengths and makes them even stronger? Or should I buy a road bike that kind of helps my weaknesses, props up my weaknesses, maybe makes my weaknesses not so weak, which is our main topic today. Should you buy a bike to help your weaknesses or to help your strengths? And I'll give you guys a quick example. This is an obvious example, of course. If you're a small, lightweight rider who's already a pretty good climber, but you suffer on the flats and into the wind, my thinking is maybe something more aero, or at least an aero wheel set, would make sense. Maybe more sense than a 13-pound climbing bike. Like if you're already smashing all your buddies up the climb, maybe you don't need a 13-pound climbing bike. Maybe you need an aero bike to help you where you're weak. Or if you're a 200-pound diesel engine on the flats, but you really struggle on the climbs, maybe not a 13-pound climbing bike, but you know what I mean? So I got to thinking, head decision or heart decision, and should you buy a bike for your weaknesses or your strengths? So just to start off with you, Josh.
Yeah, so thank you for throwing it to me first, because I think we disagree here.
I know we do.
We'll see how it goes.
We disagree on most things, which makes it perfect.
So if we rewind my life a little bit, back to about, 2018, 2017, somewhere around there, I used to weigh about nothing, and I used to go out and climb hills every single time. And that's pretty much all I did.
Back when I was fast,
Yeah.
you whippersnappers.
Well, no, it's not that I was fast per se. It's just for whatever reason, that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
And so at that time, I had an ultralight climber's bike, and that's what I did. I climbed hills. And now, I climb hills. These days I do long distances, and I sort of feel like if you ride 200 miles, you got to go through the valley and over the hill. That just is what it is.
You got to do all the things.
Yeah, you got to do all the things. Yeah. So I prefer bikes, most of the time now, I tend to ride flatter, and I don't know, it's where I live now. I'd have to go to the hills more. And so I prefer bikes that are the right tool for the job. It's not so much that I think they accentuate.
That seems like a cop-out.
What if you can only afford one tool?
One tool, Josh, one tool.
Well, then I would want to pick the tool that is the one I'm going to use the most.
Which is
an aero bike for me now. Or if I'm climbing, if I climb a lot, then I'm going to do the climbing bike.
Would you still say that if you were still a very strong climber, as strong as you were back then, would you still want a climbing
He
bike?
just insulted me.
He said it himself.
Yeah.
You would.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
It's not so much that it's so like with the all-road bikes are a particular tool for a job. And they happen to be bikes that are good at a variety of different things, but they are still a tool for a job. And whatever kind of bike you're thinking of, whether it's a gravel bike, an all-road bike, a climber's bike, an aero bike, I prefer to pick the tool for the job that I'm going to do the most often.
Okay. I can't argue with that. That makes sense, of course, for sure.
I mean, there is still an argument, which I think is your argument, which is like, well, sometimes you climb and you're slow, so maybe get a faster climbing bike so that it helps you out a little bit on the hill, and that's reasonable. But
here's the counter. The thing that you do every Sunday is what? Like a 5 or 6 hour ride?
7 or 8.
Or 7, 100-mile ride?
Yeah.
Why don't you optimize for that bike then? something that
Well, I
helps
would
you go
say
faster
I
than that?
do optimize for that, which is an aero bike.
And you just deal with the discomfort
Well,
that potentially comes with
I
that?
don't know. I don't have discomfort. I'm comfortable on my bikes.
Happy for you. Yeah, I'm happy for you.
Will, what about yourself? You're gonna go buy. Let's pretend your collarbone's not broken, and you've got
Let's
15.
back it up 72 hours.
Yeah. You've got 15 grand, burn a hole in your pocket. You don't work in the bike industry. You're gonna go buy a bike. Are you buying a bike to make you feel good about your strengths or to help your weaknesses?
I think I'm gonna buy a bike, like Josh was saying, based on my terrain that I'm around. So, like the bike I currently own is a climbing bike, a lightweight bike. That's because I end up just going up in the hills here. Like you probably climb 1,000 feet for every 10 miles here. It's a lot of uphill.
There's a lot of climbing.
A lot of climbing.
Yeah, I had no idea before I got here. So much climbing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But and I just tend to enjoy that stuff. So I'm like, this is more fun for me. I'm gonna do this part instead of just trying to get between here and my house as fast as possible on an aero bike.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. I think there's something to be said. You know, none of us are pro racers. So it's not like, you know, money or a contract is on the line, right? And Alvin, you made this point, and we were talking about this a few days ago, that there's nothing wrong with wanting to feel good. Like you want to be on your bike and feel good on your bike, right?
Yeah.
So you might want the bike that helps you feel good, right?
Yeah, if that's an e-bike,
Yeah,
awesome.
whatever.
Yeah, by all means. $15,000, man. I'm buying like 5 bikes with
Dude,
that.
that Litespeed is $16,500.
Yeah, I'm not buying that.
Yeah, me neither.
If I had $15,000 budget for a bike,
Yeah.
if I had like 4 times that, maybe.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
So, yeah.
So you were buying a bike to suit your
Yeah, you
strengths
didn't.
then.
You didn't give us
didn't
the.
answer
You
the
didn't
question.
ask me the question. To be fair. All right, so I think I've thought about this, and I think it depends on the discipline because I think I'm going into your side of the spectrum. If it's gravel, like I've been riding that Santa Cruz Stigmata, a review coming eventually. I love that bike, and it's changed my
Likewise.
mind about how like what I like from a gravel bike.
Yeah.
Like I do like kind of that zippiness, but so much of like I really do feel like it's kind of covering for my weaknesses
Yeah.
to some degree, like particularly like cornering and that type of thing. And yeah, I think that's really good. And do I feel maybe faster or slower on the stuff that I used to feel really fast on? No, and that's a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
But I do feel better about myself on those places that I didn't before.
Yeah.
That being said, on the road, where I feel like I frankly feel confident in most situations, I want the bike that my homies are riding.
That's a huge factor, I think.
Yeah.
If all your buddies are on aero bikes and you live in somewhere where it's flat, well, you're probably not going to buy a bike with little round tubes. You're going to want an aero bike because you want to keep up with your buddies. Like if all your buddies buy e-bikes, you're not buying a normal bike, you're buying an e-bike because you want to ride with your buddies.
This is actually something my uncle, who was one of the people that got me into cycling.
Yeah.
He called me the other day and he said, "I've been loving your articles." And I said, "How's your riding going?" And he goes, "You know," 'cause he's about 70. He said, "You know, I still like to ride, but all my friends got e-bikes and it's not really fun anymore. I don't know what to do because like." So yeah, that's a
Did he
definite
get one?
thing.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't want to get an e-bike. He really wants to keep riding.
Yeah, fair
He's
enough.
like,
Yeah.
Bro needs to get some electrons going.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. If we were to nail it down to like a performance perspective, which I think is where this
Kind
kind
of leaning to, yeah.
Yeah. I do think on gravel, more people should be doing what you're doing. Not to the degree that you're doing it necessarily. Like I don't think most people need like suspension on their bikes necessarily. But I think a wider tire can be helpful.
One of the reasons, or another reason this topic came up in my mind is when I go gravel riding, I see a lot of other gravel riders out there. I got to think of a way to say this without sounding like a giant asshole, to be honest with you. I see a lot of other gravel riders out there, and you could tell that they're not confident on the bike. You know, you describe it as like riding on their tippy toes, and that might be because they come from a road background.
I mean, that's me.
You know-
I ride on my tippy toes for show.
And you see them riding a gravel bike with, you know, more road-inspired geometry, or maybe from a more road-focused company. And I watch them ride, and I'm an asshole, but you know, it doesn't matter how they're riding. I'm just making an observation, like that they would feel so much more confident and therefore have more fun, regardless of going faster, they would also do that, on something like a Stigmata, something that is slacker, lower, maybe has a suspension fork, you know, depending on how they're riding. But I just think people tend to stick with what they know when, especially with gravel, you know, maybe something slacker, lower is the answer.
Yeah, I do think the Stigmata is kind of a unique bike in that regard, because
Yeah.
before that, the like long, low, slack gravel bike that was made of carbon and mass produced that we had out there was like the Evil Reckoning.
Ah,
Or no, the
that
Evil Chamois Hagar.
Chamois Hagar, yeah.
Yeah, and you've ridden that, right?
Uh,
I've certainly ridden it. That is
Pedaled
not
around briefly. No go.
We talk about how there's a lot of bikes that are just really good anymore, and that is one that I can say like I wouldn't recommend.
No,
because it's
that's
so
too
stiff,
far.
even though it's like too long, slow, low slack.
Yeah.
But the Stigmata does a good job of that after several generations of the bike being kind of run-of-the-mill gravel.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know, I would hope that more people look at something like that in the future.
Yep.
But I don't know.
So I used to ride, as we talked about the Topstone earlier, I used to ride a Topstone with a lefty all the time because I love suspension. But here's the thing I don't love, which is I don't love driving to the ride. So I don't
Because you have a suspension fork on the front, you have to drive to the ride?
Well, so I don't like to.
I thought that's like part of the agreement.
I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't want
You
to
need to buy a
go.
truck, throw it out the back.
Yeah, you get
go
a third gen
50.
Tacoma. You get
I don't want to have to ride 50 miles on the cement
course.
to do smooth gravel, all while I have a suspension fork.
Yeah.
Just because I know it's technically better. Right? And so I looked at the riding that I was doing and I was like, you know what? This doesn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah.
And if I lived somewhere if I lived in Iowa and there were farm roads out my door, that's what I was doing, I would absolutely get a suspension gravel bike, and that's what I would be on all the time. So that's just kind of, to bring it back to the question of, do I want to, yes, I would be better on a slack suspension gravel bike, but it's not the riding I do, so it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. Like we said earlier, it's got to be the right tool for the job. And if that's not the tool for the job, if you got to ride 50 miles to get to dirt, I mean, I ride 50 miles on that Stigmata probably weighs like 27 pounds.
they're heavy bikes. Even
Yeah.
my like red Force Access bike is like 19.
Yeah, it's
or
not
something like
actually
that.
27. It's probably 22, but it's got a 2.2 tire in the front, a 2-inch tire on the back. It's got some sort of suspension fork on the front. It's got all sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah.
I will say, I'm a lighter guy. I like climbing a lot, and I struggle on the flats. Like, I'm looking for wheels on the flats, especially if there's a headwind. So the wheels that I've gone with are big, tall Hunt Aero wheels. They weigh 1,600 and something grams. They are absolutely perfect. I've never thought about the weight once because they help me on the flats.
Those are
And-
some of my favorite wheels, for gravel wheels.
Yeah.
They're a little old now, but they're unbelievably good.
Yeah. So that's sort of my personal concession for weaknesses. My weakness is on the flats, so that's what I've done for wheels. And I would love to have super low profile like climbing wheels on there. Maybe I will one day, but yeah, these make more sense for now. So yeah. All right, guys. I think we've beat that topic to death. Should we wrap it up there? I know we've got a lot of other filming to do today, so let's cut it. Let's eat some donuts. And guys, let us know what you think in the comments. Are you guys gonna buy a bike for your weakness, to help that weakness, or are you gonna buy a bike to suit your strengths so you feel even better, so you feel even stronger? Let us know in the comments, and we will see you guys next episode.